So, dear learners, today we are going to learn about block 4 of the session of this course. And this block 4 covers three units, that is, Unit 12 on environmental legislation, Unit 13 on human communities and environment, and Unit 14 on environmental ethics. So, this block 4, in this, we will learn about what are the legislations and the rights of people for environmental laws. So, let us understand what is environmental law. Environmental law are the laws that regulate the impact of human activity on environment. The thing is that when we do a lot of development activities, we set up in industries, we do the agriculture, how does this human activities affect the environment? So basically, to control and to regulate these impact, environmental laws are bring about it. So it will cover all the range of broad range of activities that can affect our air pollution, water, land, flora and fauna. And it also involves the protection of animals and plants. Basically, the protection and conservation of environment and sustainable use of natural resources reflect in constitutional framework of India. So in India we have two articles which are exclusively dedicated for protection of environment. So this is Article 48A, in which puts a duty on state. Like in India we have a central government and we have different states. So different states, they also have a duty to protect the environment and safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. And the Article 51A says it's a fundamental duty of citizens. All of us, we have the duty to protect and improve the human environment, including the forest, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and we should have a compassion towards the living organisms. So living creatures, when we have a compassion with the living creatures, we are going to protect them. So we should develop such kind of compassion with the natural resources. In India, we have an exclusive ministry which deals with the environment. It was created in 1980, which was it was called a Department of Environment. Then in 1985, it name was correct, modified as Ministry of Environment Forest, and in May 2014, it has been climate change is the prime driver. So we have included the climate change in environment forest also. So now we have the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in India. In India, we have different kind of acts, like Water Act. It was enacted in 1974. Basically, it is called as a Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act. So it means we are preventing control of pollution also, and we are controlling the water pollution also. So both things are there. We have to prevent further pollution, and the pollution which is already happening, we have to control that water pollution. So to to enact this, to fulfill this act, we have central and state pollution control boards which have the responsibility to prevent and control the water pollution. So in this we have given the powers and function to both central government also and state government also to protect the water bodies and to protect the water bodies against the water pollution. Then we have another Water Prevention of Control Cess Act, which was enacted in 1977. This create a revenue to provide a economic incentive for pollution control. For example, there are many industries and factories which use lot of water, or they produce lot of water pollution. So a levy and a cess amount is put on that industries and local authorities, so that we can generate the revenues, and that revenues can be used to control the water pollution. Then we come to the air. We have Air Prevention and Control Act that was enacted in 1981, and it was again amended in 1987. Similar to Water Act, we have this Air Pollution Act, which is basically to prevent, control, and abatement of the air pollution. Again, we have the similar nature of boards at central and state levels to carry out these functions. So basically, air pollution is at different levels. So it can be air pollution from the vehiculars, from the vehicles, cars, buses, and public transports. So we need to control the appliances also which release the air pollution. So again, we have state government. At the state government, we have State Pollution Control Board, whose responsibility is to check the level of pollution. So they have to test the air of their area and check the air pollution control area. They have to inspect pollution control equipments which are already installed on the industries and manufacturing processes. Then we have Protection Act in 1972. Wildlife will cover all the animals, whether it is bees, butterflies, crustaceans, fish, moth, aquatic vegetation. So it will have both plants and animals, that is flora and fauna. It covers both of them. So for protection of wildlife, we have a state, at the level of state government, we have state wildlife advisory boards. Then we have a regulation for hunting of wild animals and birds. We have establishment of protected areas in the form of sanctuaries and national parks. Then we have rules and regulation to prevent the trade in wild animals and animal products. And if someone is violating these regulations or act, suitable penalties are imposed on that individual. So under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, we have put up different schedules, schedule 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which has prohibition with respect to the protection of that animals. For example, schedule 1 will have endangered species. So we have to prohibit killing of such animals, because we have to preserve their population. We have to conserve endangered species. So schedule 1 will have all the animals in which no um, activity is involved. Then schedule 2 will have special protection for certain animals. So hunting species cover in this animals. Then schedule 3, big game are involved, and schedule 4, small games are allowed for the animals. But these all games, big game or small game, they are regulated with the licensing. Then schedule 5, we have very few restrictions for hunting. So again in 1982 there were certain amendments in which we have to have a permission to use the wildlife animal for scientific purpose. Then in 90, amendment 2002, we have given the right to state government that there should be no alteration in the national park or sanctuary area. So if they want to change the boundaries of that area, then they should sought the recommendation from national body of wildlife that is situated in the central place, i.e. under the control of central government. So we have one international convention on trades in endangered species of flora and fauna. We called it as a CITES also, and India is also signatory to this convention. Then we have under this CITES project, there was exclusive conservation of many endangered species, like we have hangul in 1970, then we have project lion 1972, then we have project tiger in 1973, then project crocodile in 1974, Project Brown Antler Deer 2 in 1981, and then Project Elephant in 1991. Basically, government has put forward to conserve this endangered species. What are endangered species? Endangered species are those animal species whose population is at the risk of extinction. So we need to conserve these species. So under these projects, we generally um, use the different methods of breeding, and we increase the population of these endangered species, and thereafter we reintroduce these animals to the nature. Then we have an Indian Forest Act in 1927, in which basically different forests were identified, like reserve forest, village forest, protected forest, and private forest. So in reserve forest, basically uh, very less intervention is required, and s- we can do, we can cut down the tree, we can do the grazings, huntings in this reserve area, but to a limited extent. Then we have village forest. Village forest, when a reserve forest is given to a village community, we say it is a village forest. So it is the responsibility of village to protect that forest. Then we have protected forest and private forest. In protected forest, state government has a control role, and they have to protect these areas from felling of the trees, quarrying, removal, and the Forest Act come into play for this area. Later on, this act was remodified as a Forest Conservation Act, and in 1980, and in this rights were given to the more of the central part. So because what happened, many of the state government, they tend to de-reserve the forest land and use it for development purpose. So lots of the forest area which were protected area was being utilized for development activity. So under this Forest Conservation Act, our the Supreme Court, they have given the direction that state government must uh, seek approval from central government or from the Supreme Court before they are converting any forest land to the other development area. Then we have a Biodiversity Act, which we also called as Biological Diversity Act. It was enacted after the United Convention on Biological Diversity in 1992, and this act was derived after 10 years of that. And the main feature of this act is to conserve the biological diversity and sustainable use of its component, and fair and equitable sharing of benefit arising out of biological resources, knowledge, and for the matter connected to the incidental thereto. It means we whatever benefit which we are getting from the natural resources, from the biological resources, we should have equal control over all the communities. And it should be, whenever we are using some biological diversity, so we should use it very sustainably without harming its existence in the future as well. Then there is a National Biodiversity Authority which was set up to under this act, and the provision of this act is to designate the biosphere reserves, and biosphere reserves are the areas to facilitate the conservation of biological diversity in natural habitat. Okay. Then now come the Umbrella Act, that is the Environmental Protection Act. In India, we have a Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984. This we have learned in previous session also in the air pollution. And after this tragedy, there was a need that we should have a comprehensive water act, oh sorry, Environment Act, to protect all the parameters of environment. See, we have Air Pollution Act, Water Pollution Act before this act. So, this is an umbrella legislation which gives the framework for coordination of central and state government authorities. So, after this act, the all the Air Act and the Water Act come inside the Environmental Protection Act. So, whenever any organization or individual is doing any are doing harming to our nature, to our environment, or doing pollution, then they are liable to punished, and their punishment is imprisonment up to the 5 years, or a fine up to rupees 1 lakh, or both. In case it is again continued, then still then still additional fine of 5,000 rupees per day are levied on that individual, on that violator. And again, if the violation continue beyond the 1 year, then he is subjected to imprisonment up to the 7 years. Then we have a Public Liability Insurance Act. And this act, there is a provision to give a support or financial assistance to the victim of an accident which has affected due to the hazardous chemical handling of it, or any accident happen. So that we there is a provision to give benefit to that individual. Now, in India, we have a National Green Tribunal Act. This is enacted very recently in 2010, in which is basically, this is basically a green court. Like we have a this the prime role of this NGT is to dispose of all the cases of environmental protection and conservation of forest. So whenever any individual or company or industrial, they have to take the no dues or approval or compliance certificate from the NGT, after that only they can set up the industry or factories in that area. So NGT will look into all the act environmental laws, whether it is air pollution, water pollution, then Forest Conservation Act, Biodiversity Act, whether any of these pollution is not affecting that area. Then we have a National Green Tribunal Act. This Green Tribunal Act is again different setups are there to speed up the development process. There are different zone in India, like we have uh, 5 zones which has a mandate to clear out different applications. So any individual can go to this court and complain that this person or this organization or this industries is causing air pollution. So suitable act will be taken into account, and NGT will provide the relief and compensation to the pollution victims. Let us look into what are the environmental laws in African countries. In Africa, we have 54 countries. Let us look into some of the main examples. For example, in South Africa, we have National Environmental Management Act of 1998, which provide legal framework of environmental management in South Africa. Then in Kenya, we have Environmental Management and Coordination Act of 1999. This again provides a legal framework for environmental management in Kenya. Then in Nigeria, we have National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency. So basically, this agency has the prime responsibility to enforce all the environmental standards in Nigeria. Egyptian Environmental Law 1994, it look after all the major aspects of environmental protection in Egypt. Then in Ghana, we have Environmental Protection Agency Act of 1994. It regulate all the environmental matters. Then in Morocco, we have Morocco law on protection and enhancement of environment. This again look into the environmental protection and sustainable development in Morocco. Then in Tanzania, we have again the Environmental Management Act of 2004, and in Uganda we have again National Environment Act of 1995, which set up the National Environment Management Authority and covers all the various environmental issues. Then in Ethiopia, we have Environmental Pollution Control Proclamation of 2012, which addresses all the environmental pollution control in Ethiopia. Then in Senegal, we have Senegalese Environmental Control Code. So we have here the code in 2018, which can encompass all the environmental laws and regulation in Senegal. In India, we have again the waste management rules. We depending on the waste, we have hazardous waste management rule, which look after the manufacture, storage, import of hazardous waste. Then for biomedical, we have biomedical waste on in 1998, which again covers the disposal, segregation, transport of infectious biomedical waste. Then we have municipal solid waste management rules in 2000, which have which dispose of the municipal solid waste in eco-friendly manners. Then we have under the Montreal Protocol. We have understand about the Montreal Protocol in previous session, in which we have to control certain ozone depleting substances. So we have uh, ozone depleting substances regulatory rules, which covers the controls and regulate the manufacturing, import, export of these ozone depleting substances. Then now we come to the various national conventions. See, many in previous session also we have learned that many of the environmental issues are global in nature. Global means it is beyond the national boundaries of a country. So there are environmental issues, there are global issues which are affecting all the countries. So for to control that pollution, conventions are set up at the international level. And in this, the countries are made to have agreement, and they become party to that conventions. So the individual country, they sign the agreement and they become party to these conventions. Under these conventions, protocols are also framed. These protocols are basically international agreement that stand on its own, but it has linked to the existing convention. All the international conventions are developed and implemented by the United Nations. So let us understand what are these international conventions. The first convention on environment was in 1972, that is United Nations Convention on Environment and Development. Then we have United Nations environmental programs. Under that convention, which was also called as a Stockholm conference. Then 1 year later, um, there was a convention on international trade in endangered species of wild fauna and flora. Then in 1974, we have Convention on marine pollution from land based resources. Then, Convention on Long Range Transboundary Air Pollution, again, it covers many air pollutants which has a long range, which has beyond the national boundaries, and it affects the different countries. So 1979 this convention was set up. Then Convention on Protection of Ozone Layer, this we have already studied in the last session, which was um, originated in 1985, and basically it is to protect the ozone layer. And to protect this ozone layer, different countries were requested, and they were said to reduce the use of ozone depleting substances. Then we have Convention on Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Waste and Disposal. Many countries, what they were doing, they were simply um, disposing of the hazardous waste into the boundaries of another country. So this created problems, and because of this problem, um, this convention was set up in 1989. Then we have in 1992 there was Earth Summit, which happened in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and in this June 1992, uh, United Nations Conference on Environment and Development was done, which is also called Earth Summit. And in this United Convention Conference, United Nation Conference, three important things were bring about. The first one was concept of sustainable development. The second was precautionary principle. Then we have polluter pay principle. Let us understand each one of these threes. The first one is UN Convention on Sustainable Development, which was in the Agenda 21. And in this one, it was said that each country has to review the development process of the 10 years, and we should promote the sustainable development. What is sustainable development? Sustainable development is the development which is not only for the which will conserve and preserve the natural resources, not only for the current generation but for future generation also. So sustainable development goals were set up at the national level, regional level, and at the international level. So initially we have millennium development goals. Now we have sustainable development goals, which was which have set up the goals, 17 goals for the year 2013. So in this 17 SDG goals, the first goal says about no poverty. Second goal, zero hunger for all the countries, for all the regions. Then third goal is for good health and well-being. We should ensure such kind of features that all the countries, they should have good health infrastructure so that no one is left behind with the facility of good health. Then fourth one is quality education. We should have quality education at all the levels. Then fifth one is gender equality. Both male and female and even transgenders, they should be equally treated at all the levels, at the society level, at the urban level or at the education level. Then we have uh, SDG 6, Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is basically to have clean water and sanitation area. Then we have SDG 7, which says sustainable, affordable, and clean energy. Then sustainable SDG 8, which deals with the decent work and economic growth for all, and it will be done at the level of regional level, national level, and at international level. Then we have industry, innovation, and infrastructure at all the country levels. Then 10 SDG 10, we should reduce the inequalities at all the levels, whether it is at gender, whether it is at caste level, whether it is strata level, whether it is all the inequalities should be balanced out. Then we have SDG 12, which deals with the sustainable cities and communities. Then SDG 12, we have responsible consumption and production. So in this, we should have such technologies in which there are less usage of less harm of the nature, of the natural resources, and it should be at the sustainable level. Then SDG 13 is for climate action, and then SDG 14 is for life below the water, 15 is for life above the water. It means all the terrestrial ecosystem will come under in this thing. Then 16 is for peace, justice, and strong institution. We should have institutional arrangement at all levels that protect these individuals. So we should maintain peace, calmness, and there should be no rift between the different countries. Then SDG 17, it is for partnership for the goals. Different government, non-government countries, international level, they can come together with each other to build up the partnerships for the attainment of these 17 goals. Then we have convention or ozone layer. This we have already talked in the previous session also. Then we have a convention on chemicals and hazardous waste. Basically, this was released in the 1992 for all the. It is also called as a Basel Convention. It is for all the hazardous waste, and it it also have uh, international community for all the hazardous components, chemicals, whether it is toxic, poisonous, explosive, corrosive, flammable, ecotoxic, and infectious in nature. Then we have Rotterdam Convention in 1998, which controls the hazardous chemicals and pesticides in international trade. Then we have Stockholm Convention on persistent organic pollutants to reduce their concentration. Then in 1992, there was a United Nations framework on climate change. Basically, uh, government layers are there, which covers all the uh, national and regional programs to set up low emission factors. Then we have Convention on Biological Diversity. Convention on Biological Diversity has to look into the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, and also it has a provision to promote the scientific and technological Corporation. So we have several different acts which come under this Diversity Act, and one of this is Convention on Migratory Science, then Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, then World Heritage Convention, and International Plant Protection Conventions. Then we have laws of seas, in which we are connected with this Google Meet, and we look into the geographical area for control of these areas. Let us understand how do we protect environment through different forms. Like in India, we any individual can put up a public interest litigation, and a person can also go for movement, people's movement, and the third one is that he can go to the court. Then this is the institutional arrangement for the monitoring and enforcement of the different environmental law. So we have a ministry at the which was formed in the level of 2014. Then we have pollution control board and state pollution control board, which came into existence from the 1974. Let us come into a different unit, that is unit on human communities and environment. Basically, humans are causing a lot of issues to the environment through various processes. For example, many many pollutions, many industrialization, then we have depletion of natural resources, and third is that uh, they should have disasters, like they should prevent disasters like which can be controlled at national level, like nuclear waste, accidents, industrial accidents, and um, oil pollution, because lot of area is covered with the trade from the countries. In this figure, let us understand how the population is increasing and how it is affecting the resource availability. So, in right figures, we can easily say that as the population is increasing, so there is a decrease in the availability of the resources, of the natural resources. For example, we can say oil, and mm, we can say any chemicals like phosphorus, their demand is increasing, but overall their supply is getting depleted with the increase in the human population. World Health Organization, they have defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So, what is environmental health? Environmental health is the public health that is concerned with all the external conditions, such as all form of life, species, forces, uh, practice, and it will have surroundings. Human beings not may exert. Uh, See, now you people and me are handled by the some 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 another kind of arrangement. Then we have public health. Public health will cover all the five aspects. It will have sanitation of the environment, then control of the communicable disease, then spread education, because through education only we can teach the personal hygiene. Then we have organization of health service for early diagnosis and prevention of disease. And we should have a social machinery that we can control the public health. So public health is, we can also say, it's a community health, in which we have community organized efforts for maintaining and protecting and improving the health of people. It involves motivation of individual and a group of individual to change the pattern of behavior. So we should plan the medical care to achieve the members of community as a whole. Basically, environment health relation, we can broadly classified into two forms. One is genetic influence, and the second is behavioral influences. For example, every individual is having a particular set of genes. We call a genome of a individual. So if we have a particular features of a helping nature, we have got it from our parents, so it's there in the genes. Then we have a behavioral aspect which we developed after we are grown up, like we developed bad habits of drugs, smoking, tobacco, alcoholism. This all is going to affect the health of the individual. So these are the behavioral influences. So when we learn about the public health, we also have to look into the individual health. And environmental influences have different form of influences in the form of physical, chemical, biological, sociological, and psychological. So these can be radiations, humidity, poisons, toxins, animals, microbes, irritants, overcrowding of an area. Then we have neglect and um, anxiety and discomfort of the personal. So these agents we can have. If we control at a different agent level, we can control the individual health, thereafter community health, and then we have the public health. So we at the biological level we can control, we public health can be influenced by the bacteria, protozoa, then virus, fungi, worms, all these biological agents. Like we have just have a covid-19 spread of the disease. It was a pandemic disease, and this mainly it was a biological virus, biological agent, that is the covid-19 coronavirus. Then we have nutrient, like nutrient deficiency of fat, protein, vitamins, carbohydrate, minerals. All these can affect the public health and environment health. Then we have many of the chemicals which are released from the industrial activity, or like we have dust, fume, gases. These are also can affect the environmental health. Then physical agents can be like we have sudden increase in temperature, or so we will have a heat, or we have a decrease in temperature, we will say it as a we have a cold. then increase in humidity, sound, noise pollution. Then we have mechanical agents like sprain fractures. Then deficiency, we can have any of the nutrient deficiency. So after the public health, we have the natural disasters. Most of the natural disasters are caused by the nature, but human activity are accelerating these environmental disasters. So we have economic disruptions, deteriorations which are causing these natural disasters. So some of the natural calamity can be rain. It can be of different types like atmospheric nature, hydrological nature, geological nature, and biological nature. Let us see into examples. In atmospheric, we have rains, lightning, fog, heat wave, cold wave. Then in hydrological, we there is an increase or decrease in the water level, so we can have floods, we can have glacial retreating, then waterlogging. Then geological, we have landslide, avalanches, earthquake. All of us, some bit of it. Then volcanic eruptions. This is also geological nature. Then at the end, we there can be a biological interventions like just now we have this coronavirus spread. Then we have forest fires. Then we have pest invasions like we have locust invasions, and it covers all the areas. Let us understand few of the natural disasters here. So earthquake, all of us know how do we have earthquakes. Basically, it is a vibration of earth produced by the release of energy. So basically, in Earth, we have different continents and different plates which are connected to each other. So when there is a shift in the this plate tectonics, then it will form the earthquake. There is a vibration in that particular area. So the movement of different continents can form the earthquake. So depending on the geologic of that area, we have different kind of zones. Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which has depending on the risk zone, we can call it zone 1 as a very low risk. Then zone 2 is low damage risk. Then zone 3 is moderate risk. Zone 4 high damage risk. And zone 5 is very high damage risk. So if there is an earthquake in zone 5 area, so it will affect the entire area. So disaster management are set up like that. This is a map of India in which we have defined different low risk areas, zone 2, 3, 4, and 5 area. So you can see that red ones are very high risk zone area. So if earthquake happens in this area, so it causes lots of damage to the public property, to the human beings, to the animals. It is going to affect lot of population. Then the other calamities are floods, cyclones, tsunamis, and drought. Flood is what? Basically, excess of water in a river is called flood. So, excess of a river, if their water it is beyond the water level, so it can cause flood, and it can be due to excessive rainfall if there is more of the rains, then more water is there, then melting of snow and ice. If there is more of the melting, snow will be converted into water, and again the water level in the river will increase. Then if there is a sudden collapse in the dam, it will also call the flood area, it will also cause the floods. Then if we do lots of deforestation and landslide is there, then it is also going to cause the flood. Then siltation of riverbed, this also we have learned in previous sessions. See, silt come along with the water during along with the river water. So after a course of time, that silt get deposited at the river bed, at the bottom of river bed. So if there are more of silt, then water will become overflowing. So it will cause the flood. Then we have cyclones. Cyclones, we all of us know that it is mainly caused in the tropical belt where the sea water get more than 27 degrees Celsius. So an area of pressure difference developed, and there is a strong winds from an area of high pressure area to low pressure area. Due to this pressure difference, the wind speed increases and cloud burst occurs and they start form the spiral movement and cause the cyclones. So likewise, we have a cyclone in tropical belt. We have hurricanes in the temperate areas. One example is there of the tsunami which happened in the 2004, and it has devastating experiences. It has affected several countries like Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and then east coast of Africa also, India, Thailand, and many people were killed in this tsunami. Then drought area, I think someone has joined the meeting. No. Okay, we'll continue. We have drought. Drought is the area that is prolonged period of dry weathers with a little rainfall, where the rainfall is very less. So it can cause the economic, environmental, and social damage. So economic point of view, there is a loss of crop, dairy, livestock, fishery produce. And there is if when there is less of water, it can damage the plants and animal also, and cause the erosion of soil. Socially, there it can cause the shortage and damage to the health. So every countries, they generally developed a disaster management plan at the level of national level, regional level, and at the level of international. At the national level, there is a policy framework. Then at regional level, there is a comprehensive disaster management CDM, which we called as a 2000, which came into action in 2007. Then in international level, we have HYGRO framework for action plan, which was developed to reduce the disaster risk management. So, for effective risk management of a calamity, what we have to do, we have to pre plan the range of activity. Like, what could be the defense mechanism when a calamity will come? Then, secondly, we have to prepare for disaster management. Degree of alertness immediately before and after. What are the how to reduce the occurrence of calamity? Then, how to prevent the emergency warnings and preparedness based on earlier experiences. Then, we need to develop the response. When an calamity occur, immediately we have to look into the what are the relief activities we can do, so that the people which are affected by the natural calamities, they get the relief materials. Then how we can recover and reconstruct that, to bring that people which are affected due to calamities to the normal life, to return to the normalcy after the occurrence of calamity. So there are certain people movement which has affect a lot in environmental protection. For example, I'm citing some of the example of in India, we have a Taj trapezium zone. So a person, an advocate, which is MC Mehta, he put up a case. He said that Taj Mahal is in seven wonder, and due to refinery, the beauty of the Taj Mahal was affecting. So he put up the case, and this case was put up to the people movement, and finally the Supreme Court has to take the decision, and they shut down all the polluting industries near that Taj Mahal area. The second example of a people movement is a Chipko movement. Chipko movement was a movement which was started by two environmentalists. We can say Chandi Prasad Bhatt and Sundar Lal Bahuguna. What these environmentalists do? They hug the trees. So when the people, when the government and the non-government people, they come to cut down the tree, so they say they put arm across the trees, and they said ki we will not going to allow you to cut the trees. So this is called Chipko movement. Another successful example of people movement is Silent Valley movement. In 1979, it was a voice which was done against the major dams. See, dams are created on a river to form the um, electricity, but these large dams, they also have significant environmental impact. So they affect the when these dams are no longer used, they are, when we form the dam, a lot of forest area are cut down. So there was an area, Silent Valley in Kerala. The people of that area, they stood against this dams, this construction work, and they finally succeeded in achieving the and protecting the environment. So this is all about the mm, people movement, and so this all will finish off our block 4, and so we have now completed our session on this. So thank you all, and happy learning to each and every learners.